Hey, super legends, superheroes, and superstars. My name is Michael Kane. No, it's not. It's Dr. Dre without the doctor, and you are tuned in to Hot Hire, which is the number one place. That's right, number one place if you're looking to move forward faster in your job search. So today, boom, I've got a special guest. Absolutely love this woman to bits. So we first connected, I think probably about 3 or 4 months ago on a global career coach marathon thing, which was just amazing. And something that really stood out, I mentioned, there was something about, using the law of reciprocity and giving gifts. And yeah, this beautiful woman said, yeah, I like the tip, Dre, but it's not going to work in my industry. And then we kept communicating, we've engaged, we've connected, and absolutely love her sense of humor. She's held really high positions as well. So I want her to come on today and just share some of her experiences and what she's been up to for the last 6 months. So without any further ado, I want to give a huge, massive welcome to Zannatul Islam. How are you?
Hello. They're the waves. Hi Dre, how are you?
I'm awesome, absolutely awesome. Good. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, and you're giving up your time as well. So you're in England?
Yep, I live in London. I live in North London, and I've lived here all my life. I'm a Londoner.
What time is it?
It is 8:35. No, sorry, 9:30. 8:35. Yes, 8:35. My gosh. Yeah, right. In the morning.
Before we get into it, so COVID. So you guys over in England have come out of COVID on the 19th of July.
Yeah. So we sort of we relaxed all restrictions at the moment. I think with regards to different, it's a bit complicated. It's England, and then Wales and Scotland have their sort of own rules. So I can just talk about England, and we've come out of COVID at the moment. So in terms of the restrictions have relaxed. And although some places still require you to wear masks indoors, but it's kind of up to them, so Waterstones, for example, so wear masks. So we do have some sort of freedom, but I think people are taking it a little easy at the moment, just because they see how it goes. And also schools have broken up as well. That's right. Which is good, I guess, for the spread. So yeah, I don't, let's see what happens in the summer. I mean, they're talking about a third wave in autumn already, so we're not quite out of the woods. Yeah.
All right, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background and who you are?
Sure. So I'm Zannatul, and I work in the banking industry. So I've been working most recent job as a business manager, working in a Canadian bank. Prior to that, I was also working business manager at RBS, and I also had a couple of stints working in sort of different banks around Canary Wharf, mainly the big banks like HSBC, Barclays, working in risk and control. I was made redundant, my role was made redundant at the beginning of the pandemic, so it's early 2020. And since then, I took some time out, so I was planning to travel. Had all these trips booked, which all got cancelled. It's a pain. So what I did is I studied a couple of courses. So I did some courses on equality, culture and equality, and some other courses on how to do guidance, and so that I could do things like mentoring. So I enrolled in some volunteer programs with Urban Synergy and Reach Out, both very good programs to mentor young people. So that would be sort of 15-year-olds to 18-year-olds. Brilliant. And I also enrolled in a couple of charities who do tutoring, and we tutor 8-year-olds to 10-year-olds, tutoring them maths mainly. And schools are doing it like this on Zoom. And I also have been spending time doing private tuition for year 10 and year 9, year 10. So that's kind of GCSE level, so teaching them maths and science. So that's kind of what I did at my time out. And at the same time, I did about 7 months at a recruitment firm, working for some recruiters.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I've kept myself busy, but at the end of last year, I did start looking for a role. I decided I actually do want to go back to banking. I quite miss it. I enjoyed it. I was good at it, and it's kind of my forte. And so I've been job seeking as well as doing all those other things.
Awesome. And what is it that you love about banking? Why is it that you wanted to get back into it?
I think when I was younger, I didn't want to be doing banking. I didn't know what banking was. I wanted to be a forensic pathologist, right? So cut up dead
Oh,
bodies.
wow. Okay.
Yeah. And then couldn't get into medical school, but my grades were good enough and I'd had to wait a year. And I said, no, I want to go to university. I don't know why, because I was the youngest in the class. I could have waited. I went to university, studied science. And then I realized in my second year, you know what, I'm not into science. I really like maths. So I then did a postgraduate diploma in statistics. And then later on, I then fell into banking by accident because I was working in banking as a cashier over the desk. I thought, this job is really easy. You know, it was like an easy £6 an hour job. And I just thought, I want to do something different. I went to the headquarters. There was nothing there for me because there were no vacancies in the things that I was interested in. And so then and my cousin, who already worked in investment banking, I think he worked for Chase at the time, which is now Chase, JP Morgan. He suggested, why don't you go for investment banking? And I signed up for a few agencies. Anyway, long story short, I ended up at Morgan Stanley, and that's kind of fell into banking. I started at the back office and worked my way through the front office, worked my way up, and I just stuck to it. I like it because it's quite, a lot of the roles I've had are quite intellectually challenging, which I've realized I quite enjoy, especially now I've taken the time out. I've had to relearn things like physics and chemistry. You learn all the time. And I like the people aspect of it because it is very much a people's person. You have to build relationships. Internally, you have to be able to influence people. You have to be able to ask people to do things for you. And so that sort of, you kind of have a mixture of the personality as well as kind of the intellectual stimulation and the variety. I did, every day is a different day. One day you could be looking at something simple like seating plans, and the next day you could be writing a complicated or in the writing of a complicated risk document or a regulation document. It's so varied all the time, and you meet also lots of characters. And because of banking, I met friends who, from Taiwan, Hong Kong, so many different places. And I've gone to, Germany, and I've gone to those places. I've visited, I've traveled, not so much through my company. I've done a bit of that through work. I've gone to China and America, but a lot of it is through meeting people, and I've traveled to nearly 60 countries, I think, just because of the people I've met and I've been able to. Yeah. And a lot of it is because I can stay with them kind of for free. It's a bit skanky, isn't it, really? But yeah, initially in my 20s, I don't do that now. I now like to have my own space and I like a hotel. But and I used to sort of bunk in with them, which is good, especially in certain countries. When I went to Taiwan, I don't speak Chinese, so that was tricky. No, so that way you sort of meet different people, and it's amazing. It's very international, because I've worked for international companies, so I've been very lucky, definitely.
Love that. All right, so do you have any job search tips that you can share with us?
Yeah, so I sort of compiled a list because there's so many, and and my brain just kind of doesn't stay, so I'm going to go to my list. I'm not going to share it, I'm just going to look at it. And so definitely I think so there's different avenues that you should use, and you should use those avenues simultaneously at the same time. So it's not I'm not giving an order of a list. I just did everything kind of at the same time. And one of the things, the most obvious thing, is job applications. So I do them through the portals of where I want to apply. I use cover letters where possible, and I have a template because I'm applying for very similar roles. My template can be reused. It's quite good. So, and obviously I address the points in the cover letter, in the job description, and I try to address sort of 6 or 7 points. So it's important that you address and give good examples of why you think you're good for that role. Some of it will be copy and paste, and some of it won't. If you're applying for completely different jobs, then it's a little harder to do. But for me, I'm applying for one sort of job. So, I've got now a batch of cover letters, and I can take from different types of cover letters and create one. The other thing is, when you do apply, and you don't hear back, it's good to maybe chase one of the talent acquisition people. They're quite easy to find on LinkedIn. You can do a search for them and see what's happening. Ask them, is this role still open? I found that I don't hear from places, is the role open? And I asked if the role's open, and they come back, no, it's been filled internally, but no one has said you've been rejected. Even an automated rejection would be nice, and then I can sort of, tick it off my spreadsheet. And if you have a friend at that place or a contact at that place, ask them to refer you. Try and get a referral. And sometimes I did an application where it says, how did you hear of this role? Oh, I spoke to John Smith. And make sure you get John Smith's permission, but that's always quite a useful route in. Or if you have a contact at HR that speak to them, especially if there's some queries you might have about the role. Maybe it's not at the right level, or maybe you think it might be a bit junior or might be a bit senior, then definitely check them out. So that's one way. Applications is quite a good way. The other thing is contact list. So from LinkedIn, you can download your contacts. So your friends or any contacts you have, hiring managers, talent acquisition people, HR people. So you can contact those and then start going through them. I like Excel, so I kind of batch them into different groups of contacts and hiring managers and recruitment specialists, and plan what you want to say, what you want to write to them. If you're connected to them already, it's quite easy to send a voice message, perhaps. So you can just send a voice message, and just say whatever you want to say. Just wondered if you could do this, and I'm in the market at the moment, and you're really busy, and just plan what you want to say. And then sometimes I just read it off my screen, and it's quite useful to do that, and just keep a track of what you're doing. And people have come back to me. I've had about 40% hit rate, and we've had conversations. Some people have offered to give my CV to people internally, or they've maybe said, well, we're looking for somebody, could you be this person, would you like to do this? So keep your contacts, or make new contacts all the time, obviously, but definitely reach out to your contacts, get people to help you, because it's very difficult to do this on your own. The other thing I would definitely say is the LinkedIn profile. So make sure your LinkedIn profile is obviously up to date with an up-to-date picture. I changed my banner, I changed my about section. Sometimes I've had to keep tweaking over the last 6 months. The about section, what I did is I took different job descriptions, 3 different job descriptions. I edited it down to 1 job description, and I put it in my about section. Now, the job description that I've put in there is, even though it's from potential jobs that I've applied to, it's still true. So these are the skills I have. Do not put lies into LinkedIn. Okay, so these are things that I've actually done. This is very important. So and some of the word, just make sure some of the verbiage is not too overcomplicated, because some of these job descriptions, I'm not sure who writes them. They're very sort of convoluted verbiage in there. And make sure the keywords are in there. And again, for your about experience as well, kind of do the same. Make sure that your experience section, make sure that it's got the keywords in, and that it doesn't have to be dumped, copy and paste from your CV. Tweak it a little bit, and keep tweaking it sort of every sort of week or so. And you make sure you take off the tag, the button. There's a little button, that, so that people can't see what you're doing. So that's quite useful. And I have had calls following that from recruiters.
So that's the visibility button, isn't it, that you're saying?
When exactly.
You update
That's it. So I've forgotten what it's called exactly. And the other thing is posts. So I tend to comment more in posts. I don't tend to post. I'll post 1 or 2 things now and then. What I've posted is things that are quite relevant. So I talked about a couple of my charities and trying to get people involved, because some of my charity stuff for the teaching, anybody can teach an 8-year-old maths, and you only need an hour, right? Because it's on Zoom. So, that kind of thing. Or I've talked about being made redundant because I've been put in the position of being made redundant a few times due to kind of, at RBS, they got rid of equity. So I was made redundant then, and the different scenarios there. So I've talked about that, and I was put at risk at sort of 24 years old when Morgan Stanley went through a massive cull, and that was quite scary. So talk about things that people can kind of relate to, and I don't tend to make it's personal, but it's not Facebook. On the comments side, also be very careful. I try to, sometimes I really want to comment, I just scroll past. Anything political, anything religion based, cancel culture is big, so just be careful. I mean, if you read sort of comments on social media, you'd have thought that Brexit wouldn't have happened and we'd have a Labour government. Well, just because the media kind of portrays that doesn't mean it actually happened, because in real life the polls kind of went the other way. So be careful when you kind of when you post and what you're posting about. I think
totally agree on that one.
Just take care in that. The other thing is, obviously, as I mentioned, the job applications, I definitely look at the company portals every couple of weeks. I just check what's out there. I also have alerts set up sort of with LinkedIn, financials, and some other places. Just make sure you're sort of on top of that. Again, it's always good to find who the recruiter is, as I said before, and once you've applied, contact them, or if you haven't heard for a while, contact them. And as I mentioned before, sort of the job application process. Recruiters, so this is more external recruiters, sort of agencies. I actually had a list from 2012, and I went through it and found out who's still around, where they are. And I started compile. It took me about a week, I think, nearly, trying to find out who was where. So once I made that list on Excel, I then connected with them. And then once I connected, I sort of sent out connections. So maybe if there's one recruitment firm, I might send out 7 connections and see who connects. It might be 3 or 4, but hopefully one of them will be somebody who's relevant to you. Sometimes not, because they might not be in your wheelhouse. And in that case, you just say, please, can you, if this is not your wheelhouse, could you please tell me or put me in the right direction? Again, voice notes. I did get somebody, I sent a voice note and they didn't know what it was. So luckily I did follow up with an email and said, hey, I sent you this voice note, and you're really, really busy at the moment, so you probably missed it, blah, blah, blah. And again, telephone if possible. Keep your relationships as well, try and keep the relationship lives with recruiters where possible. I think so far, a lot of the interviews, majority of them that I've had are via sort of the recruitment pathway. The other thing is groups. Now, there's lots of groups around. There was a couple on WhatsApp, and I was kind of a member of a few of them. I just didn't find them all useful. There's one that's very useful that someone called Miguel Martinez runs. That's really good, especially for finance, but a lot of them don't. The useful ones exchange idea. You don't want to spend too much time on them. And these could be like Facebook groups or groups where you could meet face to face. I don't think they're always so useful. It is good to have a job seeker buddy, so to work with somebody. A guy called Christopher Ross runs Convoy, and he can help with that. He kind of, they meet every week, and you talk about what you've been up to and what you've done, and how anybody can help you. Because, you might say, yes, I applied to this role here, and someone said, oh yeah, I know so-and-so there. Oh, okay. And so that's always quite useful to have a job seeker buddy. The Convoys, they have sort of daily stand-ups where you discuss like what you've been up to that day. Some people run boot camps. Now, I did a few at the beginning. This is well before I met you. And I think I got boot camped out. I didn't, it's 5 days, but the problem is, I think it's a good way to procrastinate and not look for jobs. So I think you should limit yourself to that, to 1 or maybe 2, maybe yours. And then, take from it what you will, but I don't always find, I personally did not find them the most useful. I did get some good bits of information, but then I think, you know, or most of the boot camps, if you know, they're very similar. So if you're sort of newly unemployed, just do one. But then if you've been unemployed for sort of 18 months or 12 months, don't do 5. It's not a good time. I mean, things like
sorry, Zanna, just on that. So with the boot camps, were they like for the whole day, or were they over a weekend?
No, so they were 5 days. And then they were got sort of a video in the morning. There was one guy who did a video at sort of 6 o'clock in the morning. I was in bed, but you could watch the recording. And then they would give you tasks to do the task. And then in the evening, there'd be a session. So the evening sessions can run up to 90 minutes to 2 hours. That's a lot of time if you are, you know, busy, if you're doing other stuff. Like me, I was teaching and doing other things, and you know, trying to exercise and what have you. And you know, some people have children and kids, and you know, so it can be quite time consuming. One of them did it on Zoom, which is quite useful. And I always think Zoom is very good because you can ask things that are more tailored to you, ask questions tailored to yourself. But then things that are not on Zoom that are interactive, you're sort of typing questions and things. So I think there's one boot camp I went on once and I just did not connect with the guy. I just didn't like him. I won't say I didn't like him, but I just didn't kind of warm to him. So I kind of left after one day. I mean, these are free boot camps. I think a boot camp has to be, I think they're good for people who haven't done one. They can be really useful to get you started into that job hunt and give you some good ideas if you're new to this. For me now, because I've been looking for a while, it is no point to do one. But I do think, and you do make a lot of connections on them, which is always useful. Okay, so some of them, if they have 50 or 100 people, then, you know, just make sure that when you look at these boot camps or these LinkedIns, just find the people, just connect with everybody, because it's quite useful, because especially if they're in your industry, because you just never know. You just never know what help they can offer. And a few people did give me lots of tips and advice themselves, who are job seekers who then found roles. So it's always useful. Just on the theme of boot camps as well is some of these LinkedIn lives. So some people have weekly LinkedIn lives. So some of them are via Zoom. Like Bill Brace does one in the evenings on Mondays, and that's quite good. It goes on for a while, but I do other stuff in the background because I always multitask on these things, right? Always multitask. And and then I think Dom Joyce, he does one, is quite useful. But again, limit yourself. Follow 1 or 2. Do not do so many. Just follow the ones that you have a connection with. So people like Dom and Bill, I've messaged them, or I've spoken to them via email or what have you. Bill's is via Zoom, which is great. So just find the one that sort of fits you and that can help you. They may be able, not everybody can help you find what's right. And that leads me quite nicely onto getting a coach, which is quite a useful thing to do. And I'd advise somebody who'd been on for a while, and especially if you're a bit senior, I think coach is very useful. They can help you kind of firstly organize your thoughts, okay, this is what you need to do. You need to look at your CV. All right, then we need to look at your cover letters. Then we need to look at your LinkedIn. And it's kind of organize yourself, but at the same time, you are still applying, you're still doing things. So especially if you want to change industry, I don't, but if you want to change industry or roles within an industry, I think it's really, really useful to have one. It's somebody who can support you, and you can send cover letters. I send my cover letter. I have one, and I send my cover letters to Richard, and just asking, can you check this? And it's just somebody who's experienced, and somebody like yourself who's worked with a lot of different people, but you've got to get on with them, you've got to know them, and you've got to feel comfortable. It is good to shop around a little bit, but just be comfortable that that person can help you and has got a good record, and also understands doesn't have to have worked in your market, doesn't have to be in my case, an ex-banker, but it's just somebody who's got who can give you good advice. And sometimes I think it's good that sometimes it is good that maybe they don't necessarily work in your industry, because they can have kind of fresh eyes and a fresh look. And a friend of mine, she was looking for a coach, and I suggested a few, and she actually went with a female. She said female kind of understands the pressures of another female, because obviously there is still, well, there's still sort of gender, pay gap, and there's also racial discrimination, and sometimes it's hard for me to explain to somebody, like, okay, when I started banking many years ago, I didn't see many people at my level who were sort of my color, my gender. So and some people don't get that, and they think, yeah, well, why don't you just go and take this role? It's a step down, it pays a lot less money, but at least you'll be back in the market. And people don't really understand sort of, it's a bit of a bigger picture than that. And I think people who, coaches who do understand sort of the discrimination maybe that can come with kind of job searching, can be more tuned to that. I've not had, in my career, I've been really lucky. I haven't faced discrimination, but there are lots of people who have. So I think it's important that when you find somebody who's a coach, they can understand, you extend to them kind of the whole picture of your pathway, and all the negatives as well as the positives of your career. I would also, and a coach also helps with your things like interview prep and decision making, because sometimes you might get a role and you're just not sure whether to take it, and you can soundboard off somebody who's got a lot of experience, who's worked with other people like yourself, or have seen the similar situations, not necessarily your industry, but inside or outside, and kind of help with that decision making. Should I take that 10 grand pay cut, or should I go for this level? Should I, what are the opportunities here? And it's just somebody who's a sounding board, especially if you don't have necessarily friends or a partner who work in the same industry as you. So I think something like a coach I would definitely advise. The other thing is also keep track of what you do. So just make sure I like spreadsheets, but I have several tabs. I have dates, every time I sort of speak to a recruiter, when I go onto different portals, every job I apply for, keep notes, just, with dates, and every time you speak to somebody, every time you do something, put a date next to it, what you've done. It just keeps track of what you're doing. And it's really, especially when you're chasing people, or when you've had an interview and you just realize it's actually 5 weeks since I've heard back. So those sort of things are quite useful. It's also less overwhelming. So if you keep a track of what you do, and the other thing is also, keep a diary. I've kept a diary, and the diary is not, the diary isn't the practical side. It's more about how you feel, and just the emotions you're sort of going through, and the emotions you're going through, and how you're feeling, and the positives and the negatives of your kind of your mood. So I think it's quite useful. I've not read mine back. I'll do it when I get a role, but it is a good thing to do, and you kind of see the highs and the lows. So and the other thing is also, and as I mentioned, I do a lot of different things. So fill your times in other ways. When I first started, because I wasn't really looking, so I just watched all of Buffy, all of Angel, all of the A-Team, A-Team, Knight Rider. I think I've got series 4 of Line of Duty to watch still, but I've seen all of those. Spend some, the Euros were on, so I watched a lot. Just break up your day, have a routine. Just don't always just sort of jobs. It's good to do other things. I go to the gym, I go horse riding, I try and learn Spanish, I read. Now that lockdown is slightly eased, I can socialize a lot more. So it's really important to fill your time doing other things. And I think lastly is have a thick skin. It is going to be tough. It is really tough. This is the toughest I've experienced. I did the same probably number of job applications as I did when I was looking to move from my role in Alliance Space in 2006. the same, but I found something within a year, or less than a year, but I was working as well. And this has been longer because of the pandemic. So just make sure that you will have other things going on in your life. Otherwise it is tough. So you do need to be sort of quite resilient with the thick skin. So yeah, they're sort of my tips that I've sort of rushed through. But I'm sure that somebody like you could provide a lot more and embellish on those much more, because obviously that's, you know, more than me on sort of, you know, coaching people to find a role.
I absolutely love those tips. So much gold in there. And you were kind enough to share with me your spreadsheets and your system, and it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. So yeah, love that.
I guess that's probably from my days as a business manager, just being very organized, because that's what my job entails.
Yeah. All right. So what have you got coming up at the moment? Like any projects, programs?
Yes.
How can people get hold of you as well?
Okay, so with summer holidays, yay, so that means no more teaching, so that's good. So that means I can spend more time sort of interviewing, prep, doing more applications, as well as kind of reading, reading about some of the products I need to sort of brush up on as well. Because I've had interviews this week. Still waiting for some feedback on my CV's gone to some firms via agencies for contract roles. So there's a few things out there. It's starting to get a bit quiet compared to a few months ago. Just tweaking my LinkedIn. Every time I do that, I get some calls straight after, almost sort of the next couple of days after, from recruiters for roles. So it's just I just have to keep going. Like I said, it's very difficult, but fingers crossed. I'm not going away this summer, so that's what I'll be doing, is just spending some time putting more effort into kind of looking for a role. And I only do it about 3 hours a day normally because of the teaching and everything else, so I can definitely ramp it up. How to get a hold of me? I'm on LinkedIn, Zannatul Islam. I don't think there's many Zannatuls in the email or my phone number. You've got that, so please speak to Dre if you want to get hold of me. If you need anything else, I'm always helping to support other people as well, and if I find roles for other people that aren't for me, I always ping them on, because I have a few friends looking and some other contacts that are looking, and I always just make sure you being nice to other people and try and share what you have, and people have done the same to me. So it's just keeping that positivity and that positive vibe going.
Brilliant. All right, Zanna, it's about that time to wrap up. Do you have a dad joke for us to finish?
Joke?
Yeah.
Okay, so I wasn't sure about what dad joke to do here, right? So here's my joke.
Okay.
It's a bit weird. I've been telling this joke for 20 years. Okay, there were two cats.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. An English cat and a French cat. So the French cat the English cat is called 1, 2, 3, and the French cat is called 1, 2, 3. And the French cat and the English cat have a race again across the channel. Which cat wins the race?
The English cat?
Yeah, why?
I don't know why.
Because 1, 2, 3 cats sank.
Love that.
Isn't that funny?
Love that.
I wasn't sure if
I love that. Yeah, I did not know where that was going, but yeah, I love that. That is definitely one of my favorites.
It's not really a dad joke. It's just I don't know where I got that joke from, but I always tell it to my French colleagues as well, and they just look at me in disgust.
I'm stealing it. Definitely stealing it.
Appalled.
Zanna, I just want to say a massive, huge thank you for, especially the dad joke, but all the value and the tips that you've been able to give. It's been absolute gold. And what I'll do in the notes, I'll put some points in there. So just absolutely incredible. So yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
No worries. Thanks very much, Dre. Really good to speak to you, and have a wonderful weekend.
I will, and you.